I've already taken the $50,000 deposit. My mother didn't knock. She didn't lower her voice. She stormed into my bedroom at 3 in the morning and threw a crumpled contract onto my bed like she was tossing scraps to a dog. I co-signed for this apartment. That makes it mine. And I'm selling it. Outside, through the open window, I could hear Ellie vomiting onto the pavement. My sister. The golden child. The investment. Don't be selfish, my mother hissed. She needs to get out of town tonight. Give me your keys. I picked up the contract. It was sloppy. Handwritten. Illegal. A desperate promise to a desperate man. $50,000. The price of my sanctuary. 5 years of double shifts. Of skipped meals. Of counting coins for groceries. Reduced to a midnight handshake. I didn't argue. That surprised her. I stood up slowly and walked to the coat rack. My heavy winter coat hung there, the one I'd serviced her brand new $98,000 luxury SUV in last week. I knew something she didn't. The spare key was still zipped into the inner lining. I pulled the coat down and tossed it at her. Take the car, I said calmly. Take the coat. Just go. She snatched it without thinking. She thought she had the keys to my old sedan. She didn't realize she'd just handed her intoxicated daughter the keys to her own prized possession. The door slammed. Silence followed. Heavy. Ringing. Final. I didn't rush to the window. I didn't need to. In this family, I had always been the worker. Ellie was the miracle. The charm. The one who shined while I financed the shine. At 18, they sold my grandmother's sapphire necklace to buy Ellie a car. You're the mule, my mother told me once. She's the face. And tonight? She thought she'd sold my home. But she forgot something. The worker sees everything. The worker learns how the machinery runs. And the worker knows exactly which lever collapses the factory. I walked to the window. The SUV's red taillights flared in the rain. And I waited. Because this time, I wasn't going to save them. The crash came 23 minutes later. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just metal folding into metal somewhere down the avenue. I didn't move at first. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the contract my mother had thrown at me. $50,000. A fake buyer. A forged clause giving her temporary control. Sloppy. Desperate. Illegal. Then my phone rang. Of course it did. Ellie's at St. Vincent, my mother said. Breathless, furious, terrified all at once. The car is totaled. Totaled. Do you understand what you've done? What I've done? I closed my eyes. She took your keys, I said evenly. She thought they were yours. And you thought my apartment was yours. Silence. The kind that tightens the air. You're unbelievable, she snapped. Your sister could have died. But she didn't say thank God she's alive. She said the car is totaled. I could almost see it, the $98,000 luxury SUV crumpled under a streetlight, rain washing over twisted chrome. Insurance investigators asking questions. Toxicology reports pending. Ellie wasn't just tipsy. She was obliterated. And suddenly, $50,000 didn't seem like enough to cover what was coming. You need to fix this, my mother demanded. Call your lawyer. Call someone. Do something. For years, I had done something. Covered debts. Paid parking tickets. Transferred money quietly. Cleaned up their disasters before they became headlines. But tonight, something inside me had shifted. I thought about the apartment. The nights I slept on a mattress on the floor. The overtime shifts. The loneliness. Sold at 3 in the morning like a clearance item. No, I said. Just that. No. You ungrateful, she began. I'm not the mule anymore. Another silence. This one heavier. You think you're better than us now? I almost laughed. No. I was just done financing them. You tried to sell my home, I said quietly. Without my consent. That contract? It's fraud. She didn't answer. Because now she understood. The car wasn't the real loss tonight. The control was. And for the first time in our lives, they needed me more than I needed them. I hung up. And this time, I didn't wait for the next call. By morning, I wasn't shaking anymore. Clarity does that. I brewed coffee. Sat at my desk. Opened my laptop. The fake contract was still on my bed. I'd taken photos of every page before sunrise. Handwritten amendments. No legal notary stamp. A forged clause claiming family co-ownership rights. Sloppy. They thought desperation looked like authority. It doesn't. It looks like prison time. I pulled up the property deed. My name only. The co-signature my mother clung to? It guaranteed the loan. Not ownership. She'd never bothered learning the difference. Because she never thought she'd need to. Ellie had been discharged from the hospital with a concussion and a DUI pending. Insurance was already asking why someone other than the policyholder had access to the vehicle. I could have stepped in. I always did. Instead, I called my attorney. Hypothetically, I began, calm as glass, if someone attempted to sell property they don't own and accepted a deposit, there was a pause on the other end. That's criminal fraud, he said. Wire fraud if money transferred electronically. And conspiracy if someone else helped. I looked at my phone. 3 missed calls from my mother. 2 from Ellie. 1 voicemail that began with screaming. I didn't listen to it. Draft something, I told my attorney. Cease and desist. Formal notice. He hesitated. This is family. Yes, I said. It is. By noon, the buyer had received notice that the contract was void and that any funds exchanged were obtained under false pretenses. By 2, the buyer was calling my mother. By 4, she was calling me again. This time, she wasn't yelling. She was crying. You've embarrassed us, she whispered. They're threatening to press charges. I stared at the city skyline from my window. The apartment she tried to sell. The space I built. You tried to sell my home at 3 in the morning, I said quietly. You embarrassed yourselves. Silence. Then the real question. What do you want? Not an apology. Not forgiveness. Terms. For the first time in my life. They were negotiating with me. And I hadn't even started pulling the real threads yet. Because what they didn't know. The deposit wasn't the only money that moved. And once I followed the rest of the transfers, this wasn't going to stay a family problem. I didn't confront them. I audited them. That's the difference between emotion and control. The $50,000 deposit hadn't just appeared out of nowhere. It was wired, routed, split. People who panic move money fast. People who understand finance follow it slowly. By evening, I had a spreadsheet open. 1 transfer to my mother's checking account. Another to Ellie. A 3rd, smaller, subtle, to a business account I didn't recognize. That's when it got interesting. The business account wasn't new. It had been open for 8 months. 8. My stomach didn't drop. It hardened. I cross-referenced dates. Small withdrawals. Recurring. Never large enough to alarm me. But consistent. From where? From a joint emergency account my mother and I had opened years ago, the one she claimed she never touched. I leaned back in my chair. So this wasn't one reckless midnight decision. This was preparation. Ellie's DUI? Not the first charge. Just the first one I hadn't quietly paid. The SUV insurance policy? Adjusted 3 months ago to expand driver access. The fake contract? Pre-written template downloaded weeks prior. They hadn't just tried to sell my home. They had planned to liquidate me. And I had been financing it. I forwarded everything to my attorney. He called me within 15 minutes. You realize this crosses into felony territory, he said carefully. I know. And if you pursue this, it won't be a warning shot. I looked at the city lights again. At the home I nearly lost. At the years I spent being the mule. I'm done issuing warnings. There was a pause. Then we escalate. By midnight, formal notices were prepared. Bank freezes requested. Fraud investigation filings drafted. The business account? Flagged. The deposit? Traceable. The SUV insurance report? About to become very uncomfortable reading. For the first time in my life, I wasn't reacting to chaos. I was designing the outcome. My phone buzzed again. A text from Ellie. You're destroying this family. I stared at it. No. I was exposing it. And tomorrow, they would realize the real problem wasn't the house. It was the paper trail they never thought I'd check. They chose the steakhouse. Of course they did. Dark wood walls. Crystal glasses. A pianist playing something soft and expensive. The kind of place where appearances matter more than truth. I arrived 10 minutes late on purpose. They were already seated. My mother looked smaller than usual. Not fragile, just cornered. Ellie wore oversized sunglasses indoors. A bruise peeked from beneath her foundation. They weren't glamorous tonight. They were tired. And scared. You didn't have to go this far, my mother began the moment I sat down. No hello. No hug. Just accusation dressed as hurt. I placed a slim folder on the table. I'm not here to talk. Ellie scoffed. Oh, please. You love drama. I slid the first document across the table. Highlighted transfers. Dates. Signatures. Ellie's smirk faded. My mother didn't touch the papers. I was protecting this family, she whispered. By siphoning from our joint account? I asked calmly. By drafting a fraudulent contract? By accepting funds on property you don't own? The pianist kept playing. No one at nearby tables noticed that a family was quietly imploding. Ellie leaned forward. You wouldn't actually press charges, wouldn't I? For years, I had absorbed their consequences like shock padding. But shock padding eventually wears thin. You involved banks, I said evenly. You involved third parties. You created records. This stopped being emotional the moment you made it financial. My mother's composure cracked. They'll take everything, she said. I held her gaze. They won't take anything that wasn't already taken. Silence. Heavy. Final. Then the question again, softer now. What do you want? There it was. Not dominance. Not guilt. Terms. I want full repayment of every unauthorized withdrawal, I said. Immediate written admission voiding the fraudulent contract. And you will handle the buyer fallout yourselves. Ellie swallowed. And if we don't? I closed the folder slowly. Then I escalate. No raised voice. No theatrics. Just inevitability. The waitress approached. Are we ready to order? I stood. I already have what I came for. As I walked away, I didn't look back. Because for the first time, they understood something I'd known all along. I wasn't the mule. I was the audit. And audits always end in numbers. They signed within 48 hours. Not because they were sorry. Because they were afraid. The written admission arrived first, scanned, shaky signatures, legal language confirming the contract was void and that the deposit had been accepted without rightful authority. Then the repayment schedule. Every unauthorized withdrawal itemized. Every transfer acknowledged. No more gaslighting. No more rewriting history. Just numbers. The buyer withdrew his threat to press charges once he was repaid. The bank froze the suspicious business account pending investigation. The insurance company began its own inquiry into the SUV incident. I didn't interfere. I didn't protect. I didn't soften consequences. Ellie's DUI hearing came and went without me in the courtroom. My mother stopped calling after the third unanswered attempt. Silence settled. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was clean. Weeks later, I stood alone in my apartment, the one they tried to sell, sunlight stretching across the hardwood floors. The city hummed outside. Ordinary. Unbothered. Nothing dramatic had happened. No screaming collapse. No cinematic downfall. Just accountability. And distance. People assume revenge is loud. Explosive. Satisfying in obvious ways. It isn't. Sometimes revenge is paperwork. Sometimes it's letting consequences arrive unblocked. Sometimes it's simply refusing to be the safety net. I changed the locks. Not because they had keys. But because I finally understood something. Access is a privilege. And I had been granting it to people who saw me as a resource, not a daughter. Not a sister. A resource. The mule. That label doesn't fit anymore. My phone hasn't rung in days. No emergencies. No demands. No midnight ultimatums. Just quiet. And for the first time in my life, quiet feels expensive.